Hello everyone, welcome to Atatv.
Hello, Andy. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Actually, we supposed to start 10 minutes back, but there are some technical glitches. So we are not going to make any late now. So since Ram is also offline now, he has some technical issues. I'm going to introduce our immigration chair, Madhurima Paturi garu, and immigration co-chair, Santosh garu. One second, I think we have a Ram. So Ram is going to give some introductory note about ATA and then followed by our immigration webinar. Madhurima, go ahead, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. We are again came back with most important topics running with the USCIS. As usual, ATA is always giving the opportunity to the general population to get more education on the immigration headlines. This time we came up with one of the hot topic, which was last month, is the EAD compelling circumstances. Even though the concept itself, the topic itself is not a new in the USCIS industry, but the USCIS gave updated guidance on the compelling circumstances. So that I felt personally, I'm sure Santosh, you agree with me, that it is appropriate right now with the tech industry taking up the so many layoffs last year and this year. I think that changes in the guidance and giving more expansion on who can apply for this EAD, really helping a lot of our community, especially Indian community, who are on H-1Bs and been waiting forever and ever getting into these priority dates. So giving that little background, and I also have my colleague Santosh Somi Reddy here, who is a co-chair for the ATA legal committee, and we're going to have more conversational thing. This one, I mean, that feel free to drop any of your questions or concerns you have. Happy to help as long as it is not a personal question here. Santosh, well, we know that there is a work permit available who has a compelling circumstances. The first question is, who are eligible for this?
Good. Thank you for the introduction, Madhurima, and hello everyone. So to answer your question, company circumstances EAD is a special type of employment authorization which is issued to citizens of countries with a huge visa backlog, like countries citizens of countries like India, China, wherein they have a huge backlog and are present in the US on H1 visa, E1 or O1 or L1, right? So if they have an approved I-140 and if they lose their job and if they can show certain company circumstances, then USCIS is going to grant EAD, employment authorization for them, which will allow them to stay in the country and continue working. Okay, so basically USCIS has started this just to make sure there is no further drain from the country. So So they don't
Right.
want individuals to leave the country. So I guess this is one of the steps that they're taking to make sure those individuals who have been working here for quite some time, and then those who have an approved I-140 do not leave the country.
And
That's the job.
has to be on a non-immigrant visa like H-1B,
Mhm.
E-1 and stuff like that, as you said, and has to have the I-140 approved.
Yes.
And most important thing, your I-485 shouldn't be pending, and your priority dates are not current, which is important. And the most important thing is you have to meet requirements for the compelling circumstances, which is
Yes.
most important thing.
Yes.
So that leads to the next question. What makes or what kind of the situations or what are the requirements? Can you give us some examples? What can we include, like compelling circumstances? In the past, as I said, that this has been there forever, right? Compelling circumstances is not a new thing, So we used to use for the medical conditions. If the principal applicant has a medical condition where they couldn't able to work, So what are some of the examples that you can add for the compelling circumstances eligibility?
Yeah. So with this new regulation that USCIS has published last month, right, it makes a lot of people eligible for this compelling circumstances EAD. So especially if a person loses his job and if he has been here for a substantial period of time, and because of his job loss, if he has to leave the country and have to pull out the children from school, or have to sell their house, or break the mortgage, break the lease. So those are the things that the USCIS is willing to consider to categorize those as compelling circumstances, because of which they could approve an employment authorization.
Yeah.
But this will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, so it's not like one thing fits all.
Yes.
So we have to present in a case in such a way that, hey, this person has good nexus to the country, to the US, has been present in the US for a long time, has an approved I-140, and does not have any criminal conviction, or if he has some criminal conviction, then we have to show that it's not more than 2 misdemeanors, and then he's not been convicted of any felony charges. And if I can show that, hey, if the person has to leave the country, then they have to pull their children from school, if it will affect the children, or if there is a substantial harm to either the employee or the employer. So those are
it's completely the discretion of the USCIS.
Yes, it's complete discretion of the officer, and we have a good chance of getting the approval if you present a proper case.
Right. And I mean, that medical condition is such a common thing, obviously. Now with the new guidance, losing the job and living substantially long time is a great thing, and appropriate time to introduce that guidance right now. And obviously, any kind of the harm the principal applicant is going, they could definitely apply for the compelling circumstances. And what are some of the examples or the evidences they can provide to prove that they have the compelling circumstances?
Good. So one of the things that they could prove is, first thing, they show that they have been present in the country for a quite longer period of time. So they can use their I-94 information and all the stuff to show that they've been working in the US on H-1B, or if they've been present on like L-1, whatever, right? Then they will show they have to provide documentation to prove that they have an approved I-140, and that their date is not current because they belong to one of these countries which has a huge backlog. So for that one, they will use a visa bulletin, and then they will show that they are being laid off from work, right? They'll have the termination letter from the employer, and then they will have to provide documentation to prove that they have a house mortgage or a long-term lease, which they'll have to break if they have to leave the country, right? And then if they have children who are in school, or if they have children or somebody who needs medical attention, so they can use all those documentation to submit to USCIS, present the case.
And if they have any dispute with the employer or any agency,
yes, if there is a
they can provide those
issue,
kind of the documents.
Yeah. Especially if there is any employment retaliation, or if you have a dispute with your employer, maybe it's because of discrimination, or maybe it's a wage theft, whatever, right? And if you have filed a complaint with you or whatever, if they are pending with Department of Labor or with any other law enforcement agency, then you can use that also as some of the evidence.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm sure you're getting this question too, which is a popular question in the Indian community. can I use on the lieu of the H1B as the EAD, right? Which is a common question. Everybody is getting it, I mean, that I suggest straightforward, no, that's not the right thing. And it is not even recommendable. And there is a strong reasons why we don't recommend, right? Obviously, So if there is a possibility of it's going to get denied, as we said that very clearly, that this is a discretionary based on the USCIS officer, either you're going to get approved the EAD or no. So while you're waiting for the EAD, you can't work. You have to have the actual approval to work. So in the meantime, if it gets denied, then you're losing the status. I mean, that then you don't have anything to work. You have a job, you're on the H1B, and you shouldn't be taking EAD compelling circumstances alternative for it. You have to meet the requirements, which is very, very important. And obviously, if there is a denial for the EAD, then you have to travel outside the country and come back again with a valid visa, which is a lot of risks here, So what else you can add for this?
So first of all, submitting a compelling circumstances EAD application when they actually have a job is misrepresentation, right? Because there's no compelling circumstances in the first place, because they have a job, they're not being laid off, right? So they cannot prove that it's compelling circumstances, and it's considered as a frivolous petition. So whenever you use, as USCIS mentioned, right? You have 60 days from the day your employment ends, like if you're on H1B, to submit this application.
Yeah.
So, and you can stay in the country as long as this application is not a frivolous application. So if you're submitting this application when you actually have a job and everything is working smoothly, then that's a frivolous application in the first place.
Exactly.
Right?
I agree with your company.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second thing, this does not give you any status. So basically, if their prior date becomes current, they cannot apply for adjustment of status.
Exactly.
Right?
So any kind of, there is no change of status basically in this one, if you have to, even if you get a job later, let's say you lost the job now, you had a compelling circumstances, you applied for the EAD, you got granted, later you got the H1B, but you still can't change the status here because the EAD itself doesn't give you any status, even though it lets you stay and work, but it per se it doesn't have any status. When you don't have a particular status, then there is no change of status, obviously, even if you get the job later, or even if your priority gets priority date becomes current, you still can't adjust the status unless you leave the country and come back with a valid status. Is that true?
That's true. That's true. You're on point. And so in case if they get a job after using the EAD, compelling circumstances EAD, then they have to leave the country and then come back in with the new H1B visa. Or if they already have existing visa, they can use that to come back. And only after they receive the H1B with I-94, they can continue working.
Okay. And anybody, the viewers, feel free to drop any questions. It's related to the EAD compelling circumstances. We are happy to discuss that within the time we have here. Well, Santosh, I know that we talk about the principal applicant, which is the main important person who needs to have the valid H1B and the I-140 validity and all those things. Is this only applies to the principal applicant, or even the spouse and the dependents also receive the benefits of the EAD?
Yes. So this applies to spouse and minor children under the age of 21. Okay, so even they can apply for compelling circumstances EAD. So they will use the documentation for the principal applicant and then submit this application. Not only that, they must do this one. They don't have an option, because if the primary applicant files for a compelling circumstance EAD, okay, they're no longer an H1B, they're authorized to stay in the country. So the dependents also will lose their status.
Yeah.
So if a person is applying for compelling circumstances EAD, he needs to apply that for his spouse, his or her spouse, and minor children also. Not only minor children, children under the age of 21.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they have no choice, obviously, because they're depending on the principal.
I recommend submitting all together in one package.
Exactly. Agree with you, because they're going to automatically lose the status when the principal applicant don't have status.
Yes.
It's very important. I know that USCIS recently that periods of the time they're updating this EAD emergency situations, they're expediting certain type of the EADs. Do you think the compelling circumstances application is one of the things USCIS will consider to expedite?
Yes. So they have provided certain instructions as to how you can request the expedited process. But again, it's a case by case thing. So, but definitely there is a path to request for expedited process for the compelling circumstances EAD.
And I know that usually when we apply certain kind of the applications, just applying the application and got the receipt, you can validly stay until it gets approved, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that it's the same thing with the EAD.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
It is the same thing unless the petition is a frivolous petition. So, for example, if they assume that there is a person who came here like a few years ago, he doesn't have any other except for having an approved I-140. He doesn't have anything else to show that there is a composite compelling circumstances, and he files the application, then USCIS might consider it as a frivolous application. Okay, right. So unless it is a frivolous application, you should be fine to continue staying in the country, but you cannot start working until the EAD is approved.
Yep. Just like H-1B transfer,
just like
you can just apply with a receipt and you can start working. That's not how it works with the EAD. EAD by itself is so different. It doesn't come considered as a non-immigrant or immigrant. It's just like right in between.
Yes.
That you are eligible to work, but you don't have a per se any status.
Yeah.
So it is.
So there is a little bit of ambiguity here when it comes to children, because the regulations clearly do not say whether the children can go to school while the application is pending or not. This is something that we need to still receive some clarification from USCIS, because, for example, like if they're in like until high school, I don't think that's a problem. But when they're in college, we got to make sure, and this is something like we don't have proper directions from USCIS.
USCIS is specifically mentioned in the guidance about convictions, so what do you have to say about somebody who convicted a crime? That there is a various range of the crimes, is there any particular consideration the USCIS will accept? What do you say about it?
So the regulations clearly call out that if a person has more than 2 misdemeanors or a felony conviction, right, then they will not be eligible for compelling circumstances EAD. I'll give a small example. Assume that somebody in Virginia, right? Somebody was caught with DUI. And then a few days later, they're caught with reckless driving. So in Virginia, both of these convictions are considered as misdemeanors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the person has 2 misdemeanors.
Yeah.
If he is convicted for these 2 misdemeanors, then he may not be eligible for compelling circumstances EAD. Okay. Mm-hmm. If they are charged, that's fine. But if they're convicted, then we have to be very careful. So that's the reason why if there is any criminal, for example, if a person is charged with any criminal violations, right? So it's better to review that thoroughly so that it will not affect your immigration status in turn.
Correct. Yeah. It's very important. Of course, it is important in every...
too.
Yeah. It's important in every state, and specifically if you're going for this EAD, that's something you need to watch for it.
Yes.
Well, I think that we kind of covered basic information of the whole EAD compelling circumstances. As I mentioned, just to review quickly, it's not a new concept. It's been there. USCIS just expanded the guidance, which is perfect timely for the lot of tech companies who got laid off recently. That you can definitely use it, but don't forget, it's not just the I-140. It's not about just the valid status. The most important thing out of it is requirements that you have to meet for the compelling circumstances, which is the most crucial, importantly. And the one last thing I want to remind again, everybody, is don't try to consider this as a replacement for the H-1B. If you have a job, you are on the H-1B, just keep it going, that obviously you can reach out to any of our officers. We are happy to talk about it, do the consultation with that, but just want to give away that point, Anything else you want to add
Yes,
before we
there
jump
are other
into
things that
something
I want
else?
to discuss. So this EAD will allow you to work in any position. Okay, you can even start a company using this EAD. There is no restriction on that one.
Just like a H4 EAD, or
It's just similar
if you
to
have the
H4 EAD or
adjustment of
Reddy
status
EAD.
and you have the
Yeah.
EAD, like any other EAD, you have unlimited things. You can work multiple jobs, you can work for anybody, and obviously you can have the company, and your spouse can start the companies and things like that, which is unlimited, which is great thing, obviously.
Yeah. So the
But,
other thing is,
yeah, go ahead.
the other thing is this EAD will be granted for 1 year term, but you have the option of extending this EAD.
As long as you can keep showing the requirements you met.
Yes, yes. So there is one exception that if your priority date is current, or if it's within 1 year, right, then you don't have to show the company circumstances at that point of time.
Because you're closer to the.
Yes, since you're closer to your priority date. So in those situations, you don't have to show that you still have company circumstances. So that's one of the other exceptions that USCIS is allowing.
Yeah. But it's very important either way, from the initial to the extensions, meeting the compelling circumstances.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
But there is a flexibility. There is a lot of flexibility for sure.
Yes, definitely. And
So-
then as we file more and more applications, we'll probably see different kinds of RSVs. Then we would have a better idea of what exactly they are looking for. Because this regulations sounds too good to be true in a way, because people can definitely, I don't know, like if somebody wants to take an advantage of the situation, they can definitely do that. Especially if assume that there is somebody who has an approved I-140 and he got laid off. He can just use this, get this EAD, start a company, and then continue extending that EAD because his date is not current, so that he doesn't have to worry. So there are different things that people could come up with, create like the same thing that happened with multiple restrictions, right? So people have creative things which could in turn affect everybody, right? So we have to really see how this is going to turn up in future.
Exactly. I mean, that it's very important to know that what are you getting out of it is also right, as we all talked about it. You can't change the status. There is something that it goes along with that. There's a lot to learn about it. Anil Garu, do we have any questions on this before we jump into different?
Yes, we do. A couple of questions we have from our Telugu guys. So actually, I posted that in our group. If you guys can read it, or you want me to read?
I don't see any.
Not in this group, in the WhatsApp group.
In the WhatsApp group. Give me one.
So there is a question from Santosh, Purushottam Reddy to Santosh. Hi Santosh, have a quick question. Filed my 485 in October 2020, and fingerprints applied in March 2021. There is no action taken on my 485 application since March 2021. Priority date is EB2 June 2010. My question is, have sent my application to Texas Center to the renewal both I-131 and I-785. But when I checked on the logbox location on USCIS states, it shows Illinois. So should I reapply, or what is going to happen to my application? I live in New Jersey.
Okay. One of the good things that he can right now, like a few days ago, USCIS has published stating that they are allowing the My Progress portal for I-765 and I-131 applications. So this was published, I think, last week, right, Madhurima?
Yes, just last week on Thursday.
So in that portal, they can actually see this current status of their application. They can exactly see what is happening with the application. So the fact that he received the receipt notices itself shows that that application is properly filed. If he has submitted the application at a wrong service center, then he would not receive the receipt notice in the first place.
And we have to remember general comment here is the processing times are really delayed in all the applications all over the board, especially the 765s, I-131s, and 485s, you know. So it's dependent upon the service center. They're taking really long time.
All right, and there is couple. Can you read, Madhurima garu? Did you?
You can go ahead and read. Yeah.
I think that is better.
Okay. There is another question from Parvez Muhammad. So will 7 to 8 months of remaining? Oh, there's a follow-up question. I think I don't know. With one kid going to elementary school for appalling EAD after job loss. Parvez Mohammed, if this doesn't give us a status, then what about driving license? Looks like he has a follow-up question over here.
So Madhurima, you want to go or?
I mean, that EAD does give, I mean, that once you have the approval of the EAD, you can definitely get the driver's license. That's not what we mean. The status in the sense means like you're not going to have like the H1B or the green card, you're still going to have the EAD, which is definitely a valid ID to show and get the driver's license for sure. Is just the going to the elementary school is considered as the compelling circumstance is something I don't think I'm very comfortable with that. I don't know what your take, Santosh.
Yeah. So first thing, to get the driver's license itself, right? I am sure in a few days, USCIS is going to allow candidates to use their receipt notice as long as it's properly filed and timely filed. So, for example, if they can show that, hey, I've had a valid H1B and I've filed this company circumstance EAD, they may be able to extend the driver's license for a few days. The other thing is, I'm assuming that this person would already have a driver's license because, see, here this company circumstance EAD is used in cases where a person loses job, right? But that does not mean that he could not obtain the driver's license based on his current H1B approval.
That's true.
Right? For example, if the H1B's approval was for 3 years, he would have already received the driver's license for 3 years.
Or maybe he's at the end of his status. Maybe that's
unless he's at the end of the status. So if he's at the end of the status, then maybe he can try to do is he can take a copy of this receipt notice, okay, along with his current H1B approval notice and apply for driver's license. Again, when it comes to driver's licenses, the rules vary from state to state.
correct,
right?
Yeah.
Same thing is happening with H1B extensions also. Some of the locations, people are not having any issues getting a driver's license extended for 240 days. Some locations they're having issues. So again, in this situation, I'm assuming that they will probably allow him to extend his driver's license using the receipt notice and the current H1B approval. Do you agree with me, Madhurima, or?
Yeah, I do agree with that. That only concern is if he's about to finish the status, that's what its concern is. But as you said, that I agree with you that, most of the states also issue the temporary driver's license extension based on the receipt, and probably you have to keep going back until you get your approval to get the temporary license, But you have the valid H1B for longer, even if you're turning into compelling circumstances, that driver's license you have currently is still valid, even though you're not an H1B.
And there are a few states that don't even look at your immigration status to issue driver's licenses, right?
Find the states.
Yeah. So.
Okay, Anil, what
All right, and the next question is from Emily Marshall. Someone who gets the EAD, can they adjust their status when their PD becomes current, or would they have to go home? What happens if you wait on the decision of this EAD and it's not approved after months? Will they have a 3-year bar?
Madhurima, you want to go or?
No, I mean that you don't have the bar for this, as long as you leave within a certain time frame after, that we usually recommend a certain time period, means like within the 30 days to leave the country once you have your decision, or immediately as soon as you can, not to be on unlawful status, So in that case, you don't have any kind of the bar. But if you happen to stay longer after the decision is made, that's where the whole trouble of the unlawful presence and the bars for 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, or permanent bars will come based on that. And that while you're waiting, your priority date become current, and you want to adjust the status as we discussed earlier. I don't think so. That's a possibility because you don't have a valid status at that time. You need to have the valid status to file the 485, but EAD doesn't give you any valid status. That means that you may have to leave the country, either do the consulate process, or if you have the H1B or something and have a valid offer, you can go and come back with the valid visa, and hopefully it's still current by the time you come back and file the 485. What do you say, Santosh?
Yes. So the other thing to add to what you mentioned, right, Madhurima. So if a person has applied for EAD, company circumstance EAD, they would not start accruing unlawful presence until that EAD is denied.
Correct. Yeah, of course.
Right. So if the EAD application has been pending for 9 months, right? So they don't accrue unlawful presence for those 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to worry about the 3-year bar, because 3-year bar would only apply if a person is accruing more than 180 days of unlawful presence, or if they accrue more than 65 days of unlawful presence, then they are barred for 10 years.
Correct.
So unlawful, there is a difference between being unlawfully present and being out of status, right? So if a person is out of status, right, or if it doesn't have the status, right, it will only affect their chances of either adjusting their status or changing their status. Whereas if a person is unlawfully present there in the country for more than 180 days, they are barred for 3 years, right? So here in this case, EAD, once you submit the EAD application, you're authorized to stay in the country. Hence, the unlawful presence thing does not come into picture as long as the EAD is still pending with USCIS.
Yeah, her question is like, if it denies, I mean,
if it gets denied, then you have to leave, then your unlawful presence will start immediately. And then you have to leave within 180 days. If not, you're barred for 3 years.
Yeah. I say that.
For some reason, I thought her question was, she was asking if the EAD application itself takes more than 6 months, then will she accrue that unlawful presence? So
yeah, no, yeah, it's only starts after the denial.
Yeah, it's only after the denial.
Yeah, we both agree on that.
All right. Yeah, actually, the first question looks like I mixed up. There's a separate 2 questions, but I mixed up. So one is called Srini. His question is, I have sent my application to Texas Center for the renewal, both 131 and 765. But when I checked on the logbox location on USCIS site, it shows Illinois. So should I reapply, or what is going to happen to my application? I live in New Jersey.
Okay. So first thing is, did he receive the receipt notices? If he has received the receipt notices, nothing to worry. Okay. If not, what he can do is actually I can there is, like, if he emails us, I can send you the exact filing location for that. It's easy. He can just go on USCIS website and look up the filing address for I-765 based on pending employment-based 485 application, and they'll be able to see where they need to file the application. So if they have filed the application at an incorrect service center location and did not receive the receipt notice, then they have to refile it in the correct location.
Yeah. So
you should have received the package back if it is not the right service center, And if you did receive the receipt and your concern is about what's happening with the processing times, your receipt should say automatic renewal. So you don't have to, obviously you have to wait for the approval, but automatic renewal will help you to continue to work. There is no stop on what you have to work on that.
There's a follow-up question we have for Parvez. If we are expecting a baby in 3 to 5 months, if a dependent spouse is pregnant, is this considered as a compelling circumstances after main applicant job loss?
Yes. It was a situation even before also.
Compelling, it's a medical condition.
Now it's a medical condition, right? So you can use that as a compelling circumstance thing.
Okay. And another follow-up question from Purushottam Reddy. First question, right? Anil, okay. I filed my 485 application in October 2020, and my PD is June 2020. Fingerprint is 21. So no action taken on my 485 case. Mine is EB2 and it's still current. My suggestions, views on next course. Any suggestions or views on next course of actions from Santosh?
Well, the only thing that you need to do is probably reach out to a senator or congressman and see why there has been a delay in the adjudication of your application, because there have been situations where USCIS has lost files also. So you never know. But again, since it's only 3 years, I'm not too much worried about it for now. And since your date is current, maybe you should actually reach out to a senator or congressman, explain them the situation, and when they make the request, there is a good chance that they might either schedule a visa interview or approve your petition. So since your date is current, I would recommend that you reach out to a senator congressman And also try to open a ticket online.
Well,
And in the second,
do you have more questions?
it's a follow-up question. We asked, right, well, as long as they received a receipt, but they are saying, no, I did not receive. They recently changed the address.
So
regarding that newborn baby on
first, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. What did they say? They recently changed the address.
He recently changed the address?
Yes. He's saying that I did not receive any receipt. They recently changed the address. Means those people.
That means that he might have received to the old address. Maybe he didn't update with the immigration because obviously he didn't have the receipt number. But see that if we can contact the old address or somebody who has that mail, I guess,
Yeah.
See, the other thing that he can do is he can call USCIS and then with his alien number or chat with USCIS, and with his alien number, they may be able to pull up the application. So that's one thing. And then he should file an AR11 form online as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Typically,
but they should have sent it to the old address, it seems like.
Please, Santosh sir, send me the renewal address for I-131 and I-765 EAD.
Sure. Can you email me? I think that would be better. If they email it to us, email me at info@somireddylaw.com. info@somireddylaw.com.
And you can also go to the USCIS website and look for the form and look for the filing addresses.
Yeah.
info@somireddylaw.com, right?
Yeah, info@somireddylaw.com.
All right, I think we are good with the questions. You guys can continue.
I mean, we have 10 minutes more. I just want to touch base quickly. What's the shocking mostly you have the recent visa bulletin?
Again,
going back to the 10 years of the EB1.
Yes,
special surprises you saw.
So we were actually planning, like EB1 has come as complete surprise to us. But again, I think this is going to change once they start releasing the next year the visa numbers, just for temporary purposes. Because
it just happens all the time, just before a month or so before the fiscal year starts, which is very common. So I don't want anybody worry about it. Hopefully, there's a lot of positive things happening. Hopefully, EB2, EB3 also going to be moving. So excited for the October visa bulletin.
Yeah. It will be like this maybe for a couple of months, and then things will start picking up again.
Agreed. So, well, the other hot topic, as we all know, and probably the viewers also facing some of them, is with the multiple registrations from the last year who got approvals. There's a different kind of the circumstances. Obviously, we need a special webinar for that. I don't want to take up all on it, because the circumstances we are getting, the type of the cases we are getting is all different, right? Obviously, either it's as simple as one person got the revoke and employer is going ahead and revoking the rest of the petition. They didn't have any, they know it or nowhere, as simple as that. To the people, especially, it was shocking to the employees or the beneficiaries who went to the consulate, got the approval notices. They just came into the country. They got a full surprise. They left their job. They left everything back in the country. The minute they came into the country, to the United States, to start working on the H-1B, there's total surprise at the no it and nowhere, and the employer went ahead and revoked the H-1B. They don't know what to do next, right? There's different circumstances, obviously, change of status, H-1B to F-1, B-2. We are seeing every single range. As I said, that we need a special webinar just for that. But is there anything that you wanted to say, simple 2 words on that to give assurance to our clients?
Yes.
Just the viewers, not the clients, just the viewers.
Just the viewers. Okay, so if there is anyone in such situation, they have, of course, there's a definitely somebody should not submit their registration without their approval, so they can go after the employer, whatever, right? Apart from that, so there are certain cap exempt H-1B employers, right? So if they are able, they can try to secure a job with these cap exempt H-1B employers, wherein they can apply for H-1B without having to go through the cap. right?
And there is a special requirements to have the cap exempt employers. This is not a cap exempt just like the H-1B lottery. This is a cap exempt. Employer itself should be cap exempt, like a higher education, hospitals, non-profit sectors, those kind of things. That itself has a requirement sector. But go ahead, Santosh.
Yeah, so that is one option that they have. So again, while they're working for these cap exempt employers, they can always file a concurrent H-1B through their current employer, whoever it is, like for a profit entity. So that is one option they have. They also have an option of changing their status from H1 to F1 because B1 is not an option pretty much, right? Because they cannot continue working or going to school or anything like that. So, and they can keep trying for next year. See, the other thing is when the employer is submitting the registration, they are affirming that it's for a legitimate job offer, right? Just because two companies are related does not necessarily mean that there are no two legitimate job offers, right? Because even if the companies are related, if the employer is able to clearly prove that these are for two separate bona fide job offers, there is no issue with that. Right? So a lot of employers, what they're doing is they're just giving up on whenever they're receiving these noise. You should definitely address them if you have a separate job offer available through these two different entities.
Exactly. And also there is nothing to be worried, like, just because you got the NOID, you don't have to go ahead and withdraw all 25 approvals you received for the company, I mean, as you said, that they should be ready to face them, and try to argue on that, because obviously you may have the legitimate offer. That's why you did the multiple registrations, right? So again,
you just have to prove
case
it.
by
That's
case, we can. What is it?
They just have to provide enough documentation to prove that. For example, maybe there are two companies that the same employer owns. Maybe he is in a particular niche skill set. Maybe they are into AI or something, and where there are very few employees who do that kind of work, right? Or maybe they are into data analytics or whatever, right? So if they can show that these two companies, although owned by the same person, have a separate bona fide job, then they should be fine.
Yep, I agreed with you. And just don't want to go more deeper into that. How are the consulates doing? What do you think about 221G's effect of it, or in general, the appointments? Do you have updates on that?
Yeah. So in the last 2 weeks, I have seen a lot of people getting stuck at the CBP, especially those individuals who are coming here after obtaining their H-1B visa long time ago. For example, like we have seen situations wherein people who received their H-1B visas last January tried to enter into the country. Then the officers were questioning them, hey, do you have an updated offer letter from your employer?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that you should always carry the updated employment letter.
Yes,
and if you've been here on the H-1B, carry your pay slips. It's very, very important, those things to show. I mean, that don't ever think that, okay, just USCIS approved, it's done, or the consulate approved, it's done. And you have a biggest player, the CBP, who is the one who is making you to enter in the country. You need to prove them as much as you proved to the other two agencies. It's important, and yes, it's unfortunate we have too many layers for that, but it is very important to carry all the proofs throughout the journey. Agree with you.
Yeah. The second thing is, please be very, very careful as to what you communicate on your phones or emails, right? So especially like if you're trying to enter the country and then if they ask for some documentation to show them your phone, then they might and then once you authorize them to review your phone, they can look at a lot of other things that are on your phone. They'll search by resume, job search, and then they'll see that, hey, you've been searching for a job. That means you don't have a proper job right now, or like there are different things that they could look into that. So I highly recommend that if you think that there is something like there are any messages that are incriminating, then just don't allow them to look at you. Don't authorize them to review your phone in the first place.
Unauthorized work, multiple jobs,
multiple jobs.
I can't even give enough examples here publicly.
And resumes, resumes. And also, please make sure you do not submit your resume to USCIS. Submit only the degree certificate. That's all our experience letters. That's all they need. They don't need your resume.
Exactly. Well, I think that we are running out of time, and thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Santosh for joining me today, and thank you to Ata giving us opportunity to educate the public. Hope the viewers got some information, and giving back to Ata.
Thank you, Madhurima and ATA team. It's nice to be part of ATA. Yeah, we're happy to assist. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us or at info@somreddy.com, or you could always reach out to Madhurima, Paturi also. So,
Or you can send an
Yeah,
email
thank
to
you.
Ata too. They will definitely send it to us if you have any general questions.
Ram.
As a last note, thank you, Madhurima and Santosh, for educating us all and the viewers who joined the call. Madhurima and I know you have been serving ATA for the past 4 years as a legal chair. And Santosh, thanks for that is because you being there is gives authenticity to the role and also gives us confidence that we are the right people in the right positions. And we really appreciate you being there and take the time to serve ATA. Thank you.